Welcome back to America Right Now. Censorship, cancel culture, public shaming, and the increasingly blurry lines between government, media, and these big tech platforms have unfortunately become part of American life. And it's leading to both public manipulation and a culture of fear, all in the name of supposedly creating these digital communities. The challenges are just beginning, and a lot of the folks who are talking about reforming big tech are kind of light on the details. However, this week, the Heritage Foundation laid out a roadmap to combat big tech and counter what they call the grave threat to our republic and our basic rights. Here to discuss is the president of the Heritage Foundation, Dr. Kevin Roberts. Dr. Roberts, thanks so much for being here. I love talking to people who say, hey, I've got a solution to this problem. I appreciate that. First, tell us why action is necessary to combat this threat right now.
Well, thanks, Tom, for that comment. I've been on post here at Heritage for 3 months, and the first thing that I mentioned to my colleagues is, look, everyone is acknowledging there's a problem in big tech. We've got to do something about it. They're looking to us to come up with a roadmap, and I'm so proud of the work that we've done. But to answer your question, to write a headline, we've got to get big tech to stop having the influence over American society, over our way of life. And so we've laid out a number of details. This is a sort of typical policy paper, but it really is oriented toward action. And that's the thing that I really want to emphasize. Right. We must take action at the federal level against them.
Okay, you've got a number of steps, as you said, for Washington to take. Give us some of the main actions to protect Americans you believe should be happening, and we should be focused on this right now.
Well, 3 in particular, I think will take care of the problem, or at least get the big tech companies' attention. The first is we have to assess executive liability on this. It is so frustrating, to be polite about it, to see what these big tech CEOs think about their ability to run roughshod over us. And I want to be really clear, Tom, we're not talking about just congressional hearings for the sake of congressional hearings.
Right.
We want these executives to have legal liability for the censorship that they're taking against, especially those of us on our side. But the second thing is, we hate that we have to use this tool, but these companies have gotten too big. They've exploited the free market system, and we must take antitrust action against them to make them smaller. The third and final thing is, and this is really getting to the heart of the technology of it, they need to publish their algorithms. You and I, when we woke up today as folks who are center-right, had a probably 500 times greater chance of being censored.
That's right.
You experience that at your network.
Yep.
People who are right of center see that every day. And if you're a Republican member of Congress, there's about a 90-to-1 ratio of being censored over your Democrats. This is precisely the kind of thing these 3 steps need to fix.
Okay, so you're also looking at this as a state issue as well, because I think that you and I probably both agree that Washington doesn't get a lot done, and especially with Democrats in control, there isn't a lot of incentive. What can states and state legislatures do to protect folks, and what should people in those districts, in those states, be advocating for to protect them?
Well, 2 things. The first is I want to highlight the importance of what you just said. Trust me, we're here at Heritage, sort of the mothership behind enemy lines on Capitol Hill. We know that all great ideas originate in states. And so point number 2, in terms of specifics, there were a number of states in the last year during their legislative sessions, Florida, Texas, others, who passed laws that got into the mechanics of how these tech companies operate. They range from things like ending whatever subsidies they have to having to pay state taxes to sort of penalize them financially for some of their misbehavior. What we're doing at Heritage is not just focusing on the federal level, but making sure that what's happening at the federal level augments some of these great efforts that governors and state legislators are taking.
Now, Doctor, the other thing that I think that is great that you've done is you've also given some instructions to big tech. They often act like they are above reproach. They give only lip service to any kind of discussion about reforms. But you've got some things that they should be doing if they are really serious about protecting free speech and the First Amendment and Americans' privacy. And what are some of those?
I'm really grateful you asked that question, because we lament at Heritage that we have to turn to these tools from government, right? We ought to be very skeptical of having to do that. And so there's a golden opportunity for these tech CEOs and all of their colleagues to take advantage of. So if they're willing to listen to me, I mean this with greatest sincerity. Number one, stop censoring conservatives and stop telling us that you're not. We have all of the data in our report that shows it. The author of that report is a former Facebook executive, so stop lying to us about it. And the second thing is, why don't you be a good citizen of America and stop calling yourselves global companies or companies that are more aligned with the Chinese Communist Party? How about you start waving the American flag? And finally, I would say, publish your algorithms. I mean, if you're so confident that you're not censoring conservatives and you're so confident when you're snide towards us, show us, prove us. I mean, that's what we do at the Heritage Foundation every day.
Yeah, you know what? We all talk about transparency in government, transparency in politics. There are federal regulations that are this thick for publicly traded companies, but nothing for these guys, and that definitely needs to change. Sunlight is always the best disinfectant, certainly would get their attention. Big tech companies skew heavily toward the far left. Do you think that this is a way that your plan is a way to get sort of moderate members of the Democratic Party, sort of, well-meaning Democrats to get on board with some sort of bipartisan effort? Do you think that that's possible here?
Your audience may be surprised to hear me say this because it sounds so aspirational in this broken discourse in America, which, by the way, the tech companies have aggravated. Right. But I will say that we are confident about that. And the reason is the role we play at the Heritage Foundation is to provide the roadmap. We understand that policy doesn't end and begin with a heritage white paper, and that's why we have this very careful, laid out indictment of what the big tech companies have done. I would like to think there would be at least a few dozen moderate Democrats who understand that their constituents are looking to them for leadership, and we're very hopeful, even prayerful, that we don't even have to get to some of the tools like antitrust action. That's right. That the pressure from these moderate Democrats and the companies themselves will say, it's time to fix our practices.
All right, Dr. Kevin Roberts, the new president of the Heritage Foundation. This is one of the biggest issues of our time because it directly impacts privacy, free speech, and the government's ability to drive propaganda. We wish you the best and appreciate you being here, sir.
Thanks so much, Tom.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.